friends, I'm Ginny D, and today I am trying to start the D&D tag, like a list of questions that everybody can answer about their experiences playing D&D, and I have the absolute pleasure of joining up with Mark Hulmes today for this video.
We were talking about this, but this is our first time actually getting to talk to each other properly, which is quite exciting. Despite knowing and following each other on Twitter for too long, this is actually a chance to chat and get to know each other. Thank you so much for letting me come and be part of your D&D tag.
Of course, I'm really excited about this because I feel like I don't have that many friends who are doing YouTube stuff just yet, and so every time one of my friends starts doing YouTube stuff, I get so excited about it.
Get very excited.
How long have you been doing your channel now?
So at the moment I have a brand new channel. I had an older channel which I created just shortly after we started my D&D show High Rollers, but it was in association, it was kind of in partnership with the Yogscast, who I was working with at the time as an employee, and that channel I did a bunch of videos on board games and D&D stuff and all sorts of weird other things that were on the channel. But I actually decided to create a brand new channel and kind of start again because I never felt that I had the full kind of ownership of that channel. So I now have a brand new channel. It's just called Sherlock Hulmes, and that's been going, I think, just a couple of months now, sort of 3-4 months. So it's still fresh babby new. So exciting times.
So exciting. I don't even remember when I was like first starting YouTube stuff. I've just been tortoise crawling through it for my entire life, it feels like. So I think what we're going to do is you're going to ask me the questions from the tag, and then we're going to also do a video for your channel where I ask you the questions from the tag. If you guys want to hear Mark's answers to these same questions, you can go and check them out on his channel, which I will link in the description and in all the things, cards and
Thank you very much. Very sweet.
Things.
Very sweet. It's all somewhere. It's in cards and end slates and descriptions
somewhere
and all of that stuff.
Somewhere on the internet. It's in the cloud.
Yeah. Are you ready for my best BBC style interview process?
Oh my god, I'm so excited.
You should, get some fancy music and then like the big sort of bing bongs for Big Ben and then kind of newsreel style in. Ginny D, this is your D&D life. My first question to you is, what was your first D&D character?
So I think this is a question that a lot of people would think that they would know the answer to, but it actually is not the answer because I talk so much about Aisling on all of my channels. I do so much content about Aisling, which is, I describe her as my first D&D character, but that's not actually technically true. I played another character in the same game that I'm playing Aisling in now for a few months. Her name was Petra, and she was basically like a homebrew robot race. It was not Warforged, it was my DM's creation, and I don't know, I wrote Petra the way that most of my experience is like with writing fiction, like writing books or stories, which I did a lot of in high school and college. And I don't know, I wrote her like a protagonist for a book instead of like a D&D character. And it only took me a few months of playing her to be like, well, this is not working.
This isn't fun.
Yeah. I think the biggest realization for me was just that I thought she was interesting, but I didn't love her the way that some people seemed to really connect with and love their D&D characters. I was like, you know what? I want to play a pretty elf instead. And my DM was like, okay, go ahead.
Go with what you know, go with what you love. That's the thing, for sure. That's it's an interesting one. I think that a lot of people are in the same boat actually, with the whole sort of used to writing characters for novels or short stories or like online role play, and then actually playing a D&D character is very different to that kind of process. That's cool.
Yeah.
So,
I think I was like so afraid of doing cliches, and then I realized that I was allowed to, and no one at my table would hate me for it.
And they're the best, and it's super fun to play them. So that's awesome. Question 2 is, which D&D class is your least favorite to play, or do you not want to play?
I don't know if there's any class where I'm like super confident that I would never play it, because I think that even classes that I might not feel connected to, I'm sure there's an interesting way to go about it. But I'm just not sure I'll ever play a paladin. I don't know that. Like the whole...
Really?
Yeah, I don't know.
Interesting.
The whole paladin vibe just feels like weird to me. I don't know. Maybe it's just because my brain is like, holy warrior, love God, swing sword.
You just get it set into that kind of mindset. Oh, interesting.
Yeah, but
okay.
But I don't know. I think I might have felt the same way about cleric before watching campaign 2 of Critical Role and seeing how Jester like completely turns the cleric expectations upside down. So
yeah, right, exactly. That's the thing. I think a lot of these classes have these expectations that get set aside for them, so that makes sense.
Yeah, and when I was reading about Suni, the goddess of like beauty and love from the Forgotten Realms, for a recent video that I was making, you're like Stan Suni.
She's one of my favorite goddesses, and I've built a load of characters and a lot of homebrew stuff around Suni. That it's always exciting when people talk about her, because she's often not like, a lot of people don't talk about that goddess. So I'm like, yay!
Oh, that's awesome. Yeah, I just like looked up love gods and goddesses in like the D&D universe, trying to figure out how this cleric would be like connected to like love. And I don't know, when I was reading about her, I was reading about like what a paladin of Suni would be like, and I was like, ooh, that's really interesting. Like that's not what I would anticipate being like a paladin thing. So I don't know, maybe someday I'll play a paladin.
Remind me after this video to send you, I made a homebrew called the Oath of Love for paladins with very kind of Suni vibes inbuilt into it. So let me send that to you as a thing to maybe tempt you into the paladin class realm at some point.
I would love that.
On to question number 3, which is, which D&D spell would you most want to have in real life?
So I know this question gets thrown around a lot online in D&D spaces, and I feel like there are really obvious answers, you know, like prestidigitation would just solve so many problems in life. Or like a mage hand for when you're already in bed and forgot to turn the light off, for example. But I was thinking about it a lot after like putting together this list. And I was thinking about what would make a bigger difference in my life than just like convenience. And I couldn't stop thinking about Magnificent Mansion.
Because, yeah, imagine having that just available to you all the time.
Yeah, like it lasts 24 hours. So if that's the only spell you can cast, you could just have a house forever that's like a crazy magic mansion that no one else could get into unless you wanted.
Yeah.
You'd never have to pay rent. You'd never have to like, you know, you never have to have a hotel when you travel. You just bring your home with you.
Bring your home with you. You can set it up anywhere. Like if you were going to a convention, you could make like the entrance to it the bathroom, and you're just like, yep, and then you're in your own home or whatever. And then you get to design the layout inside as well, right? Like you can have whatever you want inside this incredible house.
Yeah, servants and like feasts and everything that you could possibly need. It seems like the spell that would give you the most day-to-day benefit, and it's like it's incredibly flexible because you can cast it anywhere. So
that's a great one. I've not heard I've heard that question a lot. Like I've had that question a lot in interviews and things like that. That's the most, I think that's the only time I've ever heard that spell recommended, and it's a really good one. That's a really fun one to pick.
Maybe it's just like grown of the fact that I just bought a house and I'm just like stressed about real estate.
Question number 4 is, what's your favorite D&D monster?
Okay, I had to think about this one a lot. I went through all these questions beforehand because I was so afraid that I would just be like in my own video. I thought about this a lot because I feel like there are a lot of monsters that are, I don't know, that just like everybody in the D&D world is like, oh, we love the Beholder, you know, we love the Mimic.
The classics.
Yeah, and that's great, and there are like, those monsters are iconic, and I think that's cool in its own way. But when I have DM'd in the past, I have different kinds of monsters that I'm like drawn to, mostly just because I don't want to throw things at my players that I feel like they know what they are or like what to do with them. Like everybody knows what a Beholder is. I just don't feel like it's scary because they're incredibly powerful, but
very, very scary. Yep.
One of the things that I am really into is like aquatic creatures. I love the idea of like some terrifying monster lurking in the deep, and that's one of the reasons I love mermaids. I like scary mermaids that are gonna like drown you. And I used to have like a huge obsession with the Loch Ness Monster for a few years. I did like a ton of research into Nessie.
Okay.
And so because of that, I have gotten really into the Aboleth because it's just like, I don't know, it's just like this evil underwater demon tentacle creature. It's
thing
like
that
everything
can control
I love.
minds.
Yes.
Yeah, and it's just super creepy and weird and occult, and then it's got, you know, all the extra, there's a lot of cool lore around them and like aberrations in general. Very, very cool.
Yeah, and then they're so incredibly powerful that I've never actually been able to just use a regular old one in anything that I've DM'd, but I did sort of like reskin and restat one to be a little like a freshwater Aboleth version in a game that I was DMing, and just because I was so desperate to use it. And it was dangerous. It was maybe too much for my players. I mean, they made it through, but it was a lot.
that happens, at the end of the day, you've got to have, like, the watcher in the lake or whatever, the scary monster that is like, nope, we've got to run away, nope, get out of here, kind of like flee from, or like they just managed to beat by the skin of their teeth, and that creates like super memorable moments, and that's super awesome.
Teach them that they don't have to fight every battle.
Yeah, for sure. What is your favorite NPC or villain that you've encountered or created?
Okay, so in one of my home games, in the one where I play Aisling, my DM created this Kenku merchant named Crumplefeather. And we ran into him a few times and we really liked him. And then at one point, he like stumbled upon our camp while we were camping overnight, and he like didn't recognize us or know who we were at first, and we sort of like startled him, and we felt so bad about it that we tried to offer him wine out of our alchemy jug, and screwed up and ended up like blasting him with 12 gallons of salt water. So we have spent the entire rest of the game since then, every time we see him, just like desperately trying to get him to like us, but he's like so
trying to make up for this horrible thing you've done. That's amazing.
He's like so suspicious and nervous around us all the time now. It is the best. I love him.
That's a DM's dream, those kind of situations that you can play into as well, especially when it's an NPC that the party loves as well, and you're just like, oh, I'm going to rake them over the coals for this. That's
It took like approximately 3 seconds after meeting Crumplefeather for all of us to become obsessed with him.
What is it with Kenkus? Kenkus just seem to have this effect on everybody. Whenever they are in a game, people just love them, especially NPC ones.
They're just perfect and they deserve the world.
precious tiny noise-making people that just need to be protected at all costs.
That's true.
Yeah, I'm still very blessed that Callie met Kiri. I think that was a wonderful thing that I got to achieve with that character. So
that is the
awesome.
Dream.
Yeah, that is the dream. Okay, question number 6. Has one of your characters ever died, and what killed them?
So Petra, my robot monk that came before Aisling, I don't actually know for sure if she is dead. But in order to like write her out and make room for Aisling, she basically, they were being followed and hunted by this like evil robot thing that they're called simulacra in this game. So they were being hunted by a simulacra, and Petra, part of her backstory was that she had this one eye that was like super weird and crazy, and the person who created her had just found it and didn't really know what it was from, and she was having these like weird visions through that eye. And the robot that was hunting her was missing an eye. So I think the assumption being that it was his eye and he wanted it back. So the only way to get rid of him, we were trying to fight him off, and he was just like incredibly powerful. And so in the end, Petra ended up grappling him and then pitching both of them over like a waterfall through these like sewer system.
Very cool.
And they're just like gone. So I don't even know. I'm assuming that like there's a possibility that she might show up again, or maybe that he will.
Oh yeah.
Who
or both.
knows? Yeah.
Or even better, both. If I was the DM, I'd be like, both is good.
Yes,
that's cool.
Dos.
That's so interesting. Yeah, the fact that having like a mystery, you don't actually know if they're dead and what killed them as well. So that's a cool one.
Yeah, and I mean I liked Petra, but I also, her personality as a robot was like mostly just sort of snarky. Like she didn't have a lot of emotional depth to her necessarily, which was one of the reasons why I didn't get so attached to her. And because of that, I could see running into her again actually being like kind of scary, because she doesn't really have any emotional attachment to the party.
Yeah, and then that creates gives no reason for them to necessarily be trusted or want to make things up. I think it's interesting. I think a lot of people's first characters tend to go down that sarky kind of snarky route as well. I think it's like an easy, comfortable thing of like people don't feel silly by being that. They can kind of be a little bit cynical. It's just an interesting thing, I think, like I've seen folks do. I
think you're right that a lot of people err towards the less emotional side of things with a character, because it can be really vulnerable to play a character who's like sad or
or even happy and like excitable and stuff like that. They can feel a bit silly or self-conscious, and I think that's something that the more you play, the more comfortable, especially when you're with friends who you trust and feel comfortable around, it's much easier to do. That's just an interesting one that you were saying that they were quite snarky. But that's a cool potential character death waiting to happen. Maybe Aisling will be the one to actually kill Petra, and that will actually wrap things up. Wouldn't that be? That's a bit of a mind boggle for you there.
That would be crazy.
Okay, so what is your best natural 20 story?
I feel like a bad D&D player that I don't know if I have one of these. And I feel like there's two potential explanations. One is that, like, Aisling is very rarely the person who is scoring the, like, intense killing blow against somebody. She just is, she's really like a support character in combat in a lot of ways. So it's not usually her that's like, sink my great axe into the skull or whatever. And then I think another part of this, maybe it just says something about me as a person, but, like, I remember all the natural one moments so much more strongly.
Well, that was going to be my next question, was what's your best natural one story? So I think that rolls very well in now. So
in a recent session, our party was trying to persuade this, like, government scientist. He was, like, an academic that we were traveling with, and he worked for the chancellor, and we hate the chancellor. We're, like, on the chancellor's shit list. And we were trying to, like, persuade him that there was all this corruption in the government and basically try to get him to join our rebellion, sort of. And we rolled, like, a group persuasion check, and 3 out of 4 party members rolled natural ones.
Amazing.
On the same check.
Amazing.
And so in the end, he misinterpreted us and thought that we were trying to kill him, that we were threatening to kill him instead of trying to persuade him.
Yes.
So we spent, like, the last few sessions with him being absolutely terrified, thinking that he's, like, a hostage. And we're trying to be like, no, we're on the same team. And he's like, yeah, yes, absolutely.
Yes, we definitely are on the same team. Yes, as if that is what lets you let me go, we are on the same team. Yes.
Yes. It's so sad. I feel so bad for him. He's just, like, this nerdy academic type.
Amazing. I love that. Especially having, like, so many in a group check roll natural ones as well. What a great outcome.
It was incredible. I was like, what are the chances of this?
Oh man, chance and D&D just really don't go hand in hand, or they go hand in hand in the most spectacular ways imaginable. So my next question is, what's the highest level you have ever played a character to?
So Aisling right now is level 9, and that is the furthest I've ever gotten with a single character. And I've been playing Aisling for over 2 years now, so we're slowly making our way. I don't know what, like, a normal leveling pace is.
It's so varied, right? Because there's, like, you know, different styles of, like, doing XP, and, like, if you're doing milestone, it's really just how the DM wants to pace it. Whereas if you're doing, like, combat XP, it changes so much. Like, I think that probably, because I think, like, we've been doing high rollers for 2 years now, and they're level 12 or 13 in that. Yeah. But I've been quite generous with the XP, so I think that, yeah, probably level 9 makes sense.
Okay, good. That makes me feel better, because sometimes I'm like, I feel like we're moving so slow, but I mean, it's good to have some time to get to know each of the new levels' abilities and stuff before we move on too, because every time we level up, it's like I have to completely rethink my whole strategy for interacting with the world. And
so many more options.
I think it's getting really exciting because I finally have enough spell slots that I feel like I can use spells without feeling guilty about it. So I've been really enjoying that.
I love that, like, the spellcaster's dilemma of, like, it's like playing, like, a game like Resident Evil where you're like, no, I can't spend any of my ammo, I might need it, and then you never spend any. That's
exactly it. Every time I've played through Dragon Age Inquisition all the way through twice, and both times I've just never used the dragon slaying rune. I've never put it onto a weapon because I'm always like, but what if I could make a better weapon? I don't want to use it up. It's a one-time thing.
What is your favorite magical item?
I feel like this is going to sound maybe stupid because it's probably one of the most useless magical items in D&D.
I don't think that's true. I don't think there are any useless magical items. Just
creative
uses of them.
I'm about to say the cloak of billowing because I just feel like the concept of, like, an enchanter toiling away for, like, days or weeks or months to just make this cloak that's just dramatic. I love that. I feel like the reason why I love it so much is that it feels like world building to me. The fact that someone had to create that and that they expended all of this, like, magical energy and time into this just complete vanity item. And I don't know, I love that. It just makes me think about all the different ways that people use magic in the world of D&D, and not all of it is, like, combat items.
Yeah, this is the biggest thing. Like, whenever I talk about, like, world building or, like, things, for me, it always comes down to, like, questions. Why did somebody make a cloak of billowing? has it become popular enough that or do all the best like upper class nobles wear them, so it becomes like this fashionable item? How does that affect the culture? Does that affect other magicians trying to create the next fad or trend or whatever that's going to be, the hat of glowing or whatever, whatever it happens to be? I think that stuff is so important to a world. Like, yeah, sure, you're like dragon slaying longswords or whatever can create cool stories, but I think that items like that definitely, like you said, they do cool world building as well. That's awesome. That was unexpected as an item, by the way, as an answer, by the way. I did not expect that.
I just think it's so funny and weird and interesting to think about how non-adventurers exist in the world of D&D, because like there are so many people in this world who are like never going to kill someone. Mm-hmm. Like they're never going to kill a creature, they're never going to kill a person. They just live their entire life, the way that like a lot of us do now, except in their own context. And yeah, maybe they're going to have magic fashion. I just think that's great.
If you had an IRL alignment, what would it be? This is a very revealing question, I feel, of how people see themselves.
Yeah, I think it's funny because a lot of people have referred to me as being chaotic good, and I don't think that's true. I wish that were true. I really wish I could be a chaotic good kind of person. Mm-hmm. But I know myself well enough to know that I'm a lawful good person, and it annoys me. I'm like a we can't cross the street. The green Walkman isn't on. Don't do that. It's against the rules.
Yeah, like
it bothers my fiance so much. I am like obnoxiously attached to rules, and sometimes I have to step back and be like, "Why am I focused on this? This does not matter."
Were you quite the good girl at school as well? Was it just sort of like teacher's pet Ginny kind of thing?
What?
Maybe.
I still am. You should see me, like, I'm Facebook friends with a few of my college professors, and you should see me in their comments, like, "Oh my god, this is like such an interesting way to tackle this problem, and I just think that you're so great and cool. I like you a lot."
That's amazing, and what a lovely kind of self-admittance there as well, of just like, I know I'm lawful good, and
I'm working on it. I'm working on it.
I wish I could be a chaotic rebel of justice and nonsense, but yeah, you're fully up there. And it's so funny that Paladin is the class that you kind of are like, I'm not really into it kind of thing. Obviously, Paladins don't have to be lawful good and stuff, but they have such a strong historical connection to being lawful good that's really funny to me, that you're just sort of
maybe I don't like it because it's too familiar to me.
Too familiar. It's you see too much of yourself in the Paladin. Yes. I love it. All right, this one's a good one. So if you had to date one of your characters, which one would you pick?
Okay, so I actually thought about this a lot, because at this point I have not just my player characters, but I've been creating NPCs for YouTube videos lately, and I don't know, a lot of people have expressed in the comments that they would date these characters, so I was like, would I? And now that I have thought about it, I think that under specific circumstances I would pick Augury, who's like my evil smuggler tiefling, and the reason why is that she's terrifying, but I feel like if I could like be her little like kept human and she like liked me, if she hated everybody else but liked me, then that would be great. I feel like if her terrifyingness was only ever turned outwards, then that would be like a
and you
stellar
were the secret,
relationship.
Secret pet that she loves and is just like, oh yeah, of course you can do no wrong, like, kind of thing.
Take care of me and buy me all the things that I wanted, and just like it would just be great. I'd be like her little sugar baby human, and we would just go from there. I feel like that I'd be like into like evil, powerful tiefling vibes, but only if she was not evil to me. If she was evil to me, then
right. Okay.
Yeah, I just want to be the exception. Is that too much to ask?
Not at all. Is there a character you want to play but haven't had a chance to play yet?
So when I was working on my calendar for next year, Natural 2021, I created this gnome wizard look. I know I'm ready to like launch into the sales pitch, but
it's perfect. I almost did it when you were mentioning your previous characters. I was going to be like, what characters, Ginny? You mean the ones available in your 2021 calendar that you can purchase right now?
Yeah, it's actually sold out now, so I can finally get that out of my vocabulary and go back to normal. So I created this gnome wizard. She's Miss September, and I put together the costume and I was like, this just looks like a character. Like some of them look like a look, but some of them look like a person. You know? I don't know. Maybe that's crazy. I feel like some of them I look at them and I'm like, you have a personality.
Yeah. Sure, of course,
exists.
yeah. Like a visual look can give you that sense of character immediately. You know, that's so many people create characters that way. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, this is my first time ever doing that because usually I start with like a backstory or a concept and then I go to visuals from there. But I saw her and I was like, this is a person. And so I started working on a backstory concept for her, which it turns out is maybe accidentally the plot of Full Metal Alchemist, turns out, which I've never seen, so I just didn't know. But I told a friend and I was like, oh, her boyfriend died when she was in school and she like found this necromancy book that she wasn't supposed to have access to and she tried to raise him and instead he like destroyed the school and now she has to adventure to pay off her like student debt, basically.
Yep.
And my friends were like, it's basically FMA.
I remember that plot. Yeah, no, there's so many things, isn't there? Like where you'll think, oh, I've got this really cool idea. You'll explain to somebody, and they'll be like, oh yeah, from blah blah blah, and you're like, I've never seen that show, or I've never read that book or seen that movie, and you're like, but it's such a good kind of idea for a character as well because it gives you an immediate reason to be out adventuring. It gives you something that you can kind of refer back to, and that can have encourage that character's behaviors and stuff like that. That's a really cool idea.
I think it would be a lot of fun, and hopefully I'd be able to do something with it that would be different enough from, the plot of Full Metal Alchemist that we'd diverge.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, the main question is, would she have her boyfriend as like a zombie that follows her around, helping her out now, or is that like long since been destroyed and left alone?
That is hilarious. I didn't even think about that. I was assuming that they probably had to take him out in order to save the school. But maybe she has this like internal goal of trying to get back to the school once she's paid off all of her debts and raise him like
properly.
Really. Yeah. So we'll see.
I love it. All right. This one's an interesting one. And again, I think that a lot of people fall into one category, but we'll see. Are you a dice goblin or a dice minimalist?
I'm like unabashedly and immediately a dice goblin. Like from the minute that I started, I actually owned dice before I even played D&D. I was in a board game store one time and I saw some Chessex Frosted Teal and I was like, ooh, beautiful nice. Sea glass dice. And I bought them just in case at the time. I don't know what I thought was going to happen. Like, oh, just in case I trip and fall into a D&D game. And then ever since actually starting to play, I have just become, it's a huge problem. My fiance will tell you, like, I just have so many dice. That's and amazing. New dice, at this point, people gift them to me, which is amazing, but also just means that, like, every week I have new dice.
I know those feelings very well, very well. Yeah, you just,
at least they're small.
How can you fill a bathtub up with them yet?
Oh, not yet.
Not yet, but soon. One day.
I could fill a sink.
I don't think you can't really pull off like artsy photo kind of shoots with a sink, but maybe one day we'll have the bath, the kind of classic American Beauty style Ginny D shoot. But yeah, nice. Goal set. Right. The very last question of the D&D tag. What rule or mechanic have you never quite wrapped your brain around?
So I mostly wanted this question on this list because I want to feel less guilty about not always remembering everything, even if I've been over it a million times. So the one that I think came to my mind the fastest is that I just still do not understand 2-weapon fighting. And I think that every time it comes up, I research it. And then I like think that I understand it, and then I end up just getting more confused. Like, is it something that every character can do? And if so, why doesn't every character do it? And maybe I'm just confused because I like don't see it used a lot. Like, are the rogues in my party doing it? I actually don't know.
You don't know. It's an interesting one because it is criminally underused. It's interesting one. I can explain it to you in my classic kind of like DM sense. Okay, so every character can do 2-weapon fighting, but there's a lot of kind of weird caveats with it, right? The first one is if you don't have the 2-weapon fighting style, then you don't get your ability modified to the damage roll of the offhand attack.
Wait, so the fighting style is a separate thing than the ability to do... Oh, that might be... That, like, literally might be the entire reason why I was not getting this.
So every character can do it. You make an extra attack with your offhand as a bonus action, but fighters and I think rangers can get a fighting style that means they can add extra damage when they do it. Otherwise, you just get the roll of the dice. You don't add your ability modifier to the damage roll. But then, to make it more complicated, there's a feat, which means that you can use any weapons you want, because otherwise it has to be a light weapon. It has to be like a, one-handed weapon. Also, you probably don't want to do it if you want to use a shield, because you can't have a shield and offhand weapon. Like, there's a load of caveats and things like that around it. But yeah, it's a complicated one for sure.
The fact that you said that it's criminally underused makes me feel a little bit better, because I feel like part of what was so confusing to me is that I very rarely see people use it.
So
and
I think
was like, is it not possible?
It's definitely possible. I think because it's a bonus action and so many classes have things that cool things they can do as a bonus action.
Right.
You'd never use it, right? Like a monk doesn't need it because a monk gets to make free attacks as a bonus action anyway. So there's a lot of weird rule stuff going on there. That's me just being boring rules explainy guy.
No, I appreciate it. That actually makes sense to me. Let's see if it sticks in my brain now, because next time it comes up, I'll be like, crap, Mark explained this to me.
I've got my answer set for this because it's something that comes up in streams all the time. So I've got my answer for that one, and it's the exact same problem of I'm just gonna blank on it every time it comes up. But
well, I can't wait to ask you that and many other questions in a minute. And if you are watching this video and you want to hear Mark's answers, make sure to go to his channel, which I will link everywhere, and watch his answers. Mark, thank you for doing this with me.
Thank you so much, mate. It's been a real pleasure. I've mentioned this on Twitter and things like that before, but you are one of the reasons I started making YouTube videos again, and I did the Jester cosplay and stuff, and that was very much inspired by you and your stuff as well. So it's been really fun to get to do this with you as well, and get you to ask me these same questions in my video as well.
That warms my heart so much.